So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the meeting today. And I see we have some council members, we have distinguished guests. So, why don't you, if you don't mind, going through the roll call of council members, and then we will also give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Anya. Good morning, everyone. I'm Joy Snyder. I'm the admin specialist with Prevention and Justice. I'm going to go over the roll call for the council members, and if you're present, you can just unmute and say present, or you could just raise your hands. First on the list, we have Zan Ojoro. George Koklax.
Sorry, yes, present.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Sam Coe. Kim Lay. Andy Leonard. Bobby Devine. Deborah Martin. Christina McMahon. Nate Latanzio.
Here.
Thank you. Jeff Justison. Andrew Copeland.
I am here.
Thank you. Daniela Avila. All right, I think that is it for the council members. I'll pass it back to you, Anya.
So, just think, Caitlin, sorry to put you on the spot. Are you now the official OYA representative, or should we still keep Debbie on the?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Anya, but I'll reach out to her and see how we want to proceed with that.
So, since you're here, Caitlin is the OYA ex officio representative, so she should be a member of the group. We also have Molly Rogers, who just completed her term as the council member, but she's hardly a guest. Molly, I don't know if you're trying to help Jeff out with his issues, but please say hello.
I'm not in the same building as him if he wants
Okay.
to. So otherwise I would be glad to. No, it's on my calendar and I just like seeing everybody. So here I am.
No, you cannot go anywhere. So thank you for being here. Now, Caroline has been a member of the Juvenile Justice Committee for quite some time, so you're hardly a guest as well, although you are a guest speaker today.
Yes, hello. Thanks, Anya. I'm actually standing in for Nella Hogberg, who's my colleague, and I am able to attend these meetings occasionally. It's always a pleasure. So thanks for having me.
Well, of course, always a pleasure. Before we go to staff, I see Derek Herring join us from Benton County Juvenile Department.
Yes. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Derek Herring. I know that this meeting was on our former director's calendar as a regular occurrence, and I just wanted to make sure to step in and join. So thanks for having me.
That's awesome. Everybody is always welcome here, and guests have the same right to speak as anybody else. So please chime in whenever you feel like it. So now we have YDD staff. Lawrence, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, thank you, Anya. My name is Lawrence White. I am the Racial and Ethnic Disparity Coordinator for Youth Development Oregon. And thank you for being here and thank you for having us. I'll pass it to Melissa.
Thanks, Lawrence. It's great to see everyone. Melissa Gallardo. I am the executive support for our YDD director, with Brian Detman, who may be able to join us briefly at the top of the meeting. He's tentatively attending. And I also am the administrator for our council and help support Joy with this committee meeting. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Oh, and I can pass it to Anya. Do you want to go next?
Oh, sure, since
Thank you.
since you named me. So I'm Anya Sikin, I'm the Associate Director of the Youth Development Division, and I staff this committee. And I just got a message from Bobby Devine that he is not able to attend the meeting, but we will miss him, but he will join us next time. And I see we got one more distinguished guest joining us. Mr. Lin, would you introduce yourself?
Hi there, Tori Lynn. I'm with Lynn County, the director for the juvenile department.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Looks like Jeff is back. Now he's gone.
I am back. Thank you, Anya.
Oh God, and we can hear your voice. What a relief.
My first meeting as chair is going to be really cool today, and then that happened.
That's okay. So now, would you like to introduce yourself as the council member and the new chair of this committee?
Yeah, Jeff Justison. I am a Wasco County Commissioner. I am a former juvenile justice employee in a couple of different roles over the years, and in my first meeting as chair of the Juvenile Justice Committee. And
Awesome.
are we going through introductions? I was with IT, so I didn't quite hear who all was who all's gone for introductions yet. So
Just did we miss anybody, please?
I think Joy, Joy introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, I did at the start, but
first, but let's do it again.
no problem. Hello everyone. I am Joy Snyder. I am the admin specialist for prevention and justice. And I think we're all caught up, Anya. I think we can start
Awesome. Thank
the
you so
agenda.
much. So Jeff, are you ready to take?
I am. I'm again apologizing. I'm getting caught up here. So we've gone through roll call. So the first thing on our agenda is the fiscal year 2025 Title II formula grant application. And who gets to take that?
Well, that would be my opportunity to share the news with you. So the fiscal year 2025 Title II formula grant solicitation was finally released a month ago. In relative scale of things, it was about 9 months later than expected. So we're kind of trying to put everything together by early May. But the good thing about this delay, there's always silver lining. We submitted major chunk of data 9 months ago, and Lawrence and Lindsay put together both compliance data and RAD data and reduction plan back in July, wasn't it? Or was it August? So that part, which is a significant undertaking that we have to do every year, that was done. So we don't need to worry about it. So now it's just basic. I shouldn't say basic. It's a ton of documentation that still needs to be submitted to the Department of Justice, and we're working on it. And I think we have just a couple of pending documents that need to be put together, and then we will upload them in the system, and hopefully it will be good to go. Now, the total allocation has been slightly reduced. It's kind of hard to understand why the reduction happened, but it was not happen because of anything not we did at the state. They only, yeah, I'm just not gonna guess. It's not significant, so it's really about $10,000 reduction, so we can manage. Now we will be continuing the work that we said we will start doing with fiscal year 24 funds, and we will get to it. And one of the key areas was probation transformation or probation reform. So we'll get to it a little later in the conversation. Since we were in full compliance for fiscal year 25, there were no reduction, just that slight reduction by a few $1,000s, which had nothing to do with us. Do you have any questions about the application? Because our priority areas remain the same. Probation transformation, but the program area we use for it is gradual and appropriate sanctions. We'll also have delinquency prevention, and we have, Lawrence, help me out. Is it community-based services?
Community-based programs and services.
Thank you. But basically, all of these program areas could be used in support of probation transformation, and depending on what shape and form and what our plan will be on how we're looking at transforming probation in the state. But we'll get to it later. And we have a very special presentation by Caroline today, because she will give us an update about the efforts that are being done by the judicial department and other areas. But if you don't have any questions about the Title II application, we could probably move on to the next item, which is like seriously connected to this one.
No questions for Anya at this time? Anyone? So yeah, the OJDP compliance audit is next update. So that's back to you again, Anya.
That is by default, because Lindsay Schooner, who is our compliance monitor, was supposed to be doing it, but Lindsay is doing site inspections in Eastern Oregon, in Ontario, Baker City, and other places. So, and that's really important. So I will take this opportunity just to give you an update. You're probably all familiar that because we talked about it a lot, we had a compliance audit conducted by the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention in February. Several of you participated during the audit, so you have a first real experience with it. And Chief Copeland, thank you for letting us visit your facility. We visited 16 facilities altogether. And Tori, of course, thank you for letting us into your facility and helping us with an opportunity to visit the shelter program as well. Did I miss anybody who opened their doors for us? And of course, OYA was very generous to let us see McLaren and Oak Creek. So there are no issues mentioned or found during the audit period with any of the juvenile facilities, detention, co-located facilities, OYA facilities. They were actually very impressed with the programming that is being offered to use everywhere. The challenge was potentially with court holding facilities. And there was some other issues that were kind of pre-identified. One, we didn't have a letter by Governor Kodak stating designating Youth Development Division of Department of Education as a state designated agency, because we had a previous letter from the previous governor and then from a previous governor, but we just didn't have a current one. So that was resolved. Well, I'm very happy to say that we're legit. Governor Kodak appointed Youth Development Division to serve as a designated state agency and monitor compliance. And so all good. We shared that letter send it to the acting administrator of the OJDP as well to the auditors. So at least that should not be a finding because we preemptively fixed that situation. Now, I have a whole follow-up list. So we've met with several of the facilities that we've visited, and especially court holding facilities. We had conversations with so we visited two, Clackamas County and Multnomah County, and both buildings are pretty much brand new and beautiful. However, there was not as much consideration put into the structure of the court holding area where both adults and youth could be in at the same time, which potentially creates sight and sound separation issue. It creates jail removal issue, which potentially will lead to multiple violations and for the state to be found out of compliance. So again, we're trying to be proactive about it. We're meeting with both facility people, and the challenge here is, as forgive me if I'm saying the obvious, but court holding facilities are run by sheriffs, and the courts are run by the judges. So there is this balance. How do we approach all this? But we're making some progress. I shared this information with JDIP at this last meeting, which had a follow-up conversation with Jordan Bates. So she's understanding what is happening, and she said that she will use some of the, well, provided she talks to her supervisors first. She will try to have some conversations with both Multnomah and Clackamas. Also, Brian and I reached out to Judge Gates of Multnomah County Court, and her next step was to share this information with the presiding judge. Was still waiting back. So we're making some steps. So because the audit letter, we're expecting it now to come pretty quickly, unless things have changed with the OJDP, because they gave us a time frame of about 30 to 90 days since the last day of the audit, which was Friday 13th in February. But so, April 13th has passed, so that's already 60 days gone. So by May 13th, we should be, looking at our emails frequently. Anyway, so this is where we're at. Are there any, and we will keep you updated, of course. As soon as the letter comes, we'll share it with both the committee, the Youth Development Council, which is a state advisory group, and everybody, all the partners and everybody who is involved. Then we'll have about 30 to 60 days to respond and show what actions will be taken by the state to mitigate the situation. And of course, Lindsay knows a lot more about it in more details, but this is an overview of what's happening.
Thank you, Anya. Does anyone have any questions? I think maybe just, and most everybody here probably well knows, but the OJJDP compliance audit mostly has to do with sight and sound separation of juveniles and not incarcerating youth in facilities with adults and that sort of thing. And so that's where sometimes in those court situations when they can't keep sight and sound separation between adult defendants and youth is where it becomes problematic. Most of the time facilities are separate enough, and I know at Norcor we had some issues because our adult facility was right across the parking lot, but those were mitigated. So there's usually things that can be done, and it helps to have the audits done, and most of the time we're able to resolve the issues that they may have fairly easily. Any other questions? Any questions for Anya on that? Don't see any hands. So we'll go ahead and move on. The Juvenile Delinquency Court Improvement Project, Conditions of Probation. Caroline.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to share my screen, so give me just a moment. Okay, can you all see that okay? Perfect. So yes, thanks again for having me. I'm Caroline Meyer. I'm an analyst with the JDIP program, part of the Oregon Judicial Department. And Nella Hogberg is my colleague, and she typically attends these meetings. She's out this week, and so she asked me to present in her place. And Anya had asked us to share a little bit about our probation project. And so that's primarily what I'm here to do today. I did want to start with just a quick background about the JDIP program, and then I'll go straight into the projects that I wanted to talk to you about. So just a brief reminder about who we are. JDIP is a program within the Oregon Judicial Department Court Programs Division, and it was created as a response to judges who were requesting more support and education for delinquency cases. The program is patterned largely after our successful JSIP program, which is on the dependency side. And the JDIP program is dedicated to being a convener for delinquency court improvement. And the ultimate goal is improving outcomes for youth and our communities. First, I wanted to talk briefly about our delinquency disposition improvement project, because it really does relate directly to probation conditions. JDIP formed a work group in 2024 to address the need for more consistent use of risk assessments, and then a more standard way to get the risk information to courts and parties to help inform disposition decisions. So this group created a new delinquency disposition report, and this is just a brief picture of the draft report here. And that report is completed by juvenile departments and is now mostly automated in JJIS from the JCP information that's entered by the juvenile department. It's then filed with the court ahead of disposition hearings. This report and its corresponding process was piloted in Klamath and Lane counties in May through December of 2025. And then as a result of feedback from our pilot counties, our juvenile judges group, juvenile departments, and other system partners, we were able to revise the report and make it available in March of this year for statewide use. And for this project, we developed an implementation guide that could really walk county local system partners through the process of using the report, using model court forms for disposition. And so we created that document as well as several other resources for this project that are on our website. We're still in the process of finalizing updates to our website, but all of that information is now available there. And then we also have, like myself, I'm the lead staff on supporting counties who are interested in implementing this project and the disposition report locally. JDIP has also been encouraging the creation of local delinquency model court teams to collaborate on court improvement projects. And we're working to develop additional project templates like the one that we created for the disposition improvement project. And these are meant to help implement improvement efforts locally. And one of the projects identified by the JDIP Advisory Committee is around probation conditions. And that's really what Anya had asked us to talk about. So the current probation model form is certainly not perfect. But OJD has long maintained a probation conditions form on its website. The Forms Committee recently completed an update of that form. The new version is significantly different. a significant improvement essentially from the previous lengthy form. And it reflects the varied practices of the judges who contributed to developing it, and the counties are encouraged to adapt it to their local needs. JDEP's hope is to develop additional resources to help facilitate local conversations so our communities can work together toward what's best for local needs and best practices. And then these are just links to the general conditions of probation and the special conditions of probation, which are available on OJDP. Right. So then what is the focus of this newer probation project? It's developing materials to support local teams who are interested in improving probation condition forms and processes in their counties. As you know, probation's huge, and this is just a slice of what needs to be done. So a probation design team was created. The JDEP Advisory Committee worked to recruit 12 members representing diverse roles from across the state, and they've now held 3 meetings. And I know, Anya, I know you're part of that, and I don't know if we have anyone else in this meeting that's also a part of that group. Tori, are you part of that? I have to admit that. Oh, go ahead.
On the probation design team?
Yes.
Oh, no, we've got Digna.
Okay.
Stacia, and John.
Lynch. Okay, great.
Yeah, we've got 3 directors on there that I believe.
Perfect. And Nella is staffing that committee. And so again, I don't have as much familiarity with that personally, but they're currently developing 3 key materials: an implementation guide similar to what I mentioned with regard to our disposition project. Then there's a best practice guide and a fillable community commitments document. And so my understanding is there's been lots of conversations in these committee meetings and really acknowledging the limitations of the project. The group has talked about the need to address who gets put on probation, but this project really is focused on what happens after a decision has been made to put a youth on probation. The group has also acknowledged the need to address the limitations of this project, noting, practice varies and there should always be room for local iterations, but that doesn't, at the same time, that doesn't mean we shouldn't make efforts to set everybody up, similarly. And then those individual changes can be made at the local level. And we also realize that some of this may feel very basic for folks from juvenile departments that have dedicated considerable time to these efforts already. But really that's the point, is to get all of this important information in one place so it's also accessible to folks like judges, DAs, and our attorneys. And then these are just some of the resources that have been informing the group's work. And Anya, I think that's it, unless there's questions. Thanks again for having me. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Are there any questions for Caroline while we have her? Does anybody have questions, thoughts? I will say, Caroline, when you first started talking, you said JDIP, and there's the education piece in juvenile justice. There's a JDEP, JDEP, and I was wondering how the two of these went together until your screen popped up and the DIP clarified that for me. So thank you for sharing your screen on that and keeping me organized.
Great.
No questions. Don't see any hands. Nobody jumping in. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you being here. We'll just go ahead and move right on to the next thing, which Anya, is this you again with the 3-year plans goal, the probation reform, our next steps?
Right. Thank you. So I mentioned earlier that we are working on the application for the 25 funding, keeping the same goals in place. And one of the goals is probation reform, transformation, and so forth. So I will talk about the money at this point, and it's part of the plan. But later, I don't know, I don't see the agenda. Do we have it separately on the agenda, the toolkit?
No, on
Okay,
the,
so we'll talk, we will move here to it. Sorry. I
okay.
put the agenda yesterday or whatever, a week ago, and I forgot what's on it.
I think it wasn't necessarily on the agenda, but was another attachment. So
Awesome.
I think we all have it.
And Molly, heads up, I will ask you to help me here. So the reason we put probation reform, we're using the word reform because you see it on this document here. But we can change the name to whatever works better. If there's a better way of explaining what it is that we will be embarking on, we're open. We might even have a little context, you know, who comes up with a better name for it. But and the reason I asked Caroline to talk about the probation conditions changes that are being proposed and worked on by the judicial department in collaboration with the juvenile department directors. I think you also have their defense attorneys, and you have district attorney or something. So it's a variety of group. For two reasons. A, to give you an update on what they're working on, and also to say what we're proposing to do has little to do with what they're working on. However, since that effort is happening already in the state, it would be nice to be informed of what everyone is doing and stay connected so we're not crossing each other's paths in any way, and collaborate as much as we could. So, Molly, I will just introduce this tool, and then I will ask you to go, to give more information about what it is we did in Baltimore, what was discussed, and so forth. So, Joy, if you don't mind moving down a little bit. Yeah, so this is what this document is, and I don't know if you had a chance to read it before the meeting today, but I would encourage you to go through it. It's not super long, and it goes through just facts and opportunities to make some changes. It talks about the role of state advisory group, because so previously when Caroline was talking about that was the judicial role, but now this is the role of state advisory group, which is technically its youth development council acting through the Juvenile Justice Committee, because this is the brain group for the council or anything related to juvenile justice. It's called Partnering for Success, working with others. Subcommittees getting started. So, Molly, I will ask you to cut in here, and then after Molly gives you a background and everything else, we will get to the checklist.
Okay. So I will give you kind of the high flyover and the role of the SAG. And so we were invited as a team to go back to Baltimore, Maryland, several years ago. I think it was in the fall of 2023.
It's been a while. Lauren's
been a while.
here too.
So the team was myself and Anya Sakino and Lawrence White and Marcel, who was YDC chair at the time, and Debbie Martin.
Yes.
And that was it that we could make it. And we went back and spent a very intense day with the Annie Casey Foundation. And Jeff, you would be familiar with the room that we were in, and really worked on our probation system in the state of Oregon. And there were a total of 5 jurisdictions that were invited to come. And in conversations, Oregon is unique, and this is where it kind of gets a little bit interesting, is when we think about probation in the state of Oregon, we think about the judicial system, where there's an adjudication and probation. But many things can happen before we get to that point in Oregon. Across the United States, there are absolutely lots of jurisdictions that the probation is the court, is the juvenile department. And so in Oregon, where the juvenile justice system is partial, the juvenile departments in the state of Oregon are with the executive branch. Many states, the juvenile departments are with the judicial branch. So when we were doing our mapping, many of the states were trying to figure out how to divert kids off way before they ever come to court, because court is how they get to the juvenile justice system. Well, in Oregon, we have all of these off-ramps. So if I were to rename it and participate in the pool to rename the probation reform in Oregon, it would really be more around diversion transformation, if I were to be very fair and honest. And it was really around mapping our system to find points in time where young people could be diverted either from the juvenile justice system as a whole, but definitely before they go and participate in judicial court probation. And so we had a ton of fun kind of mapping that out. And the Casey Foundation leads with data. That's one of the most important things that they lead with. And so as we're thinking about in Oregon, when we started this conversation, now you guys get to think about it, and I get to be a subject matter expert for you. We can talk about what data we need to look at in Oregon to see if we're being successful. And so that really was the point of, we had young people talk to us and tell us their story. We had people with lived experience tell us their story, and those missed opportunities along the way that they could have been diverted from formal court involvement. Is that fair to say, Anya? Is that a good overview?
Yes, absolutely.
And as a SAG, then it's really the Juvenile Justice Committee and the Youth Development Council's committee to create kind of that framework for local jurisdictions to then potentially put forward pilots or to kind of create opportunities to, again, leading with data, because that's the model, to kind of look at that. I think that's all I have, Anya.
Well, I'm sure you have more, but I think it's a really great succinct introduction of the. Lawrence, do you have anything to add, because you were there? Because part of this work is also reducing racial and ethnic disparities within probation and diversion.
Yes. So like Molly, I'm just going to reiterate what Molly just spoke on. Really, when we went back there, it was actually in June, I believe. We went back there, and we did spend time with 5 other jurisdictions across the country, and we really just kind of compared who and what they are doing with their probation programs within their states. And of course, through different jurisdictions, different needs, they're doing different things. And what we found was that we actually have a really good foundation, but we could actually, and I don't want to use the word reform, but we can revive what we have in place already foundationally from a probation standpoint to actually utilize it to really divert youth from further into the system. We talked about all sorts of things as to, how probation is given on the back end. What would that look like coming in on the front end? What would that look like coming in between? What would that look like for youth who are first-time offenders? things of that nature. So we have a great foundation for probation here in Oregon. Um, and we're really just trying to invest in what is the best way we can actually maximize what we have foundationally to keep youth out of facilities. So that's kind of where we landed, listening to some of the programs that other states have are doing. Would that work for us? Of course, Oregon is very unique because each county has different needs based on the regional needs of that area, whether it's coastal, high desert, metropolitan, um, so forth and so on, rural. So taking that all into consideration, we still have the foundation, the footprint of a good probation system, and how can we implement some programs with what is already in place, again, to keep our youth from going further in the system or even entering the system. So, Anya?
Awesome. Thank you, Lawrence. Does anybody have any questions so far before we get into the planning stage? Well, first one, well, there is the state advisory crew plan, but do we have any feedback from our guests? Word of caution, word of advice, just any reactions? And Tori and and Derek, I know you went off screen, but I'm mostly asking you to.
Sorry, say that again, Anya.
So any reaction to what we just talked about from a local community perspective? Does it make sense?
Well, I mean, I haven't read through that document, but kind of how Molly described that around, I think it's difficult to take national models and kind of put them into Oregon, as Molly had kind of stated around how the systems are set up in different states, in Oregon being kind of juvenile departments county driven as opposed to, under the courts. And so there's just those different nuances I think we have to take into consideration when doing that. And then looking at the overall system and, how we're currently diverting kids, from the system or at least from the court system. And then even once they're in court, how does that look? Because we do some different things with that as well. Of not all kids end up on probation that go to court. There's, different hold in abeyance and some different other things that happen. So I think taking inventory of that and then really determining what needs to go from there.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, because that's part of the toolkit. Assessing local needs. And then, I did mention there is some financial support that will be available. So we can also decide today or later, once we have a little more mapping of the situation. We could offer several grants. We can look for an interested county, or that will be, to have this transformation, revival, I like those new words, happening. But those going to be the next step. But it will be very self-driven by a local, or probably juvenile department would be the main player in that.
Anya, will you catch me up just a little bit about where this is at as far as, is this something that, I'm trying to think how to put this, that I think about juvenile departments, and in AOC, we talk about kind of their mantra. If you've seen one county in Oregon, you've seen one county in Oregon, right? Because people want everybody wants to do the right thing, but things look so different. Is there a sense, and this might be more a question for Tori or Derek or Molly as well, is there a sense that there's an interest around the state from the juvenile department directors and or judges to look at this? I mean, I think Caroline talked about how there's some interest, had been some interest from a judge's perspective, from the judicial perspective. But where are the juvenile departments in their interest in looking at this? Does anybody have thoughts on that, or is that one of the things we're trying to assess at this point?
Molly has her hand up, so.
Sorry, thank you, Molly. Go ahead.
So I don't know that we've really done a great job of really sharing with the directors in a format on what the steps are for doing that. I think maybe people would raise their hand and say we want money, but and I will agree that our counties are different across the state, but the ORS is the same, and so there's some grounding that can be, and we can be similar across the state that way. And I don't know that we have had the opportunity or taken the opportunity to really do from this committee what this committee would want to have counties respond to, because we were so deep in the guidelines that we didn't have any bandwidth to create kind of the framework on how you go about doing a project like this. So I know of several counties that would probably be very interested in it, but they wouldn't necessarily know how to do it without some guidance from this committee. Multnomah County is a probation transformation site for the Annie Casey Foundation. So I don't know what they had to do to become one of those sites. So I guess your question is really, really relevant of, I think, creating some framework for a county, because again, we're 36 counties, but we're all in the same state and we all use the same information system. So we can all use the same data. I think there are some kind of grounding things we can do, even though our approaches may be slightly different, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, no, that's helpful for me. Tori, did you have something to add to that?
Just that, it certainly, I think, is the best approach to try to bring in as soon as the process starts, kind of whatever group that you're kind of working with or talking about, rather than, sometimes things happen and it's like, this is happening. And it's like, well, wait, how come you're monkeying with our system, without kind of involving us more or that. So I think that's always the best approach is really trying to make sure that everyone knows what's going on, that there's involvement there. And I know it's, as Molly said, the guidelines were a priority to get those done, which we very much appreciate. And then, kind of how's that reach out happen? How do you kind of get that involvement? Otherwise, I think, it can be kind of a defensive kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? Or what are you trying to, why are you trying to reform our system? Like, there's a lot of stuff we're doing well, kind of thing. So I think the more involvement we can have with the juvenile directors, I think the better that will be. And so that they have the right message.
And that's really helpful. And I'm glad you said that, Tori, because I think that's it. My experience, and again, having been out for just a little bit, but my experience has been, whether it was at the juvenile department level or at the detention level, is if somebody comes in and says, here, we put this together, do this, and we weren't involved in the planning, then that's a little more difficult to take than to have the subject matter experts helping with that. So yeah, that's really good. So I don't know, Anya, if that helps from a what do we do next perspective, but for me, that's one of the things to think about is how is that messaged and where do we start getting that message and getting the word out.
Well, this is all very helpful feedback. I know we've been blaming the detention guidelines that took a lot of time and effort on our part, so we did not really think through the communication piece. But just correct Molly, correct me, and Lawrence, correct me if I'm wrong. We never, because you were with me in Baltimore, that was never meant as a statewide revival or transformation. This is completely optional. It's if there is a jurisdiction that would like to make some changes, either who gets probation as a consequence of their actions, or if people want to build more of a diversion opportunities, or something else, or provide community support to families. So anything that helps youth to be successful and less criminally involved. Does that make sense? So there's no, at least I don't think there is a specific framework or guide how to do it. It's basically, what do you think will work with your community? And if you're interested in making some changes, there's some money that can help you.
Absolutely, Anya. I really appreciate you doing that. And I really want to articulate that Oregon has, that this isn't comparing us to any national piece. It really is looking at your own data and what you want to improve as your local entity. So Tori, thank you for that clarification in the conversation. I didn't mean to imply at all a national movement. It was really a framework for if a jurisdiction were, I'm going to use a hypothetical, from a really small county. So if I was a really small county and all of a sudden we are putting every young person on probation for theft 3, I'm using that as literally a hypothetical. And we were wondering, like, why is that all of a sudden a bump? And we were looking at our data and we wanted to do some work around that. Then we would use that data to do something, right? So it really, I super appreciate the call out that it's not looking at national models. It really is looking at local models. And I will turn to Washington because Washington is similar to us in that they're county juvenile departments. And in Washington, there are a couple of counties doing probation transformation. Probably the most documented is Pierce County. And clearly that has been the one that has had its journey really documented. So if there was a county that was interested in looking at what Pierce County was doing, they might apply for some dollars to go look at what Pierce County is doing. That's really what these are for. It really is for improvement of the local, at the local level. So thank you, Anya, for letting us call that out.
Well, totally. And when you do have a few minutes to read the toolkit, it gives examples of other states, how they were doing it, and what everybody does is completely different from one another. So there isn't such thing as a mold that everybody has to fit in. And just an example I would like to give is this. So State Advisory Group has offered several opportunities to local jurisdictions over the years. Some of you may recall we worked with Georgetown for several years on crossover youth practice model. Again, it was completely voluntary. We had Marion County, Lane County, Washington County, and Jackson County show interest in this work. Multnomah County was doing it on their own. So what we did, again, it was by request. from county that felt that there was a need to address the situation when kids were involved in both sides of the court, and there was little coordination between welfare and the juvenile side. And so anyway, so it was a local decision. Those who felt that they could benefit from improving their system, they applied, and we basically paid Georgetown to come and do this work with them. But yes, it did involve commitment from the counties, because they had to have a group of people interested in this work. They had to have a judge, they had to have juvenile department, they had to have child welfare there. So all these things. And each one came up with a model that fits their needs. So Lane County model was different from Washington, and Washington was different from Marion. And so anyway, so those are the kind of things. So we are seeking some kind of system improvement, but the way it works and fits the local needs. Kind of like it's like a JCP prevention plan. Whatever works in your community.
Good. That great discussion, and that's very helpful for some context as we move forward. So, what steps are we looking for next? Are we ready to kind of talk about that, open that discussion?
I hope so. So, Joy, if you don't mind putting that toolkit back, there's a section there, pretty much next steps. A checklist or something. Forgot what it was. It's towards the end. Just above that.
I think you just passed. I think it's page 19.
Oh, thank you. And you'll have that document, so whenever you have time to look through it. Okay, getting started, yes. So I think we'll really get started. So for instance, first is to create a special subcommittee. Well, we don't need a subcommittee, you are the committee. So the Juvenile Justice Committee is the committee of the state advisory group that is looking at the juvenile justice issues, right? So the next one is important. We don't need to, like, for the committee, we need to figure out a way to engage with young people. So maybe our youth committee could help with that. Or maybe it's just seeking input from young people who may have had experience with probation or juvenile justice in general. Families and communities, well, here it is. Probation officers, well, we can replace probation officers with juvenile departments, right? Judges were seeking, so all these partners and players in the system. Well, Department of Education is easy. We're part of it. And we have Sam on the committee.
And Anya,
mhm.
these are the kind of things you put in if a county wants to start taking a look at it, that they would mirror this with their local committee.
Right.
That's what they talked about back in Baltimore, is if a county was responding, right?
Right. So thank you. So that could be actually a foundation. So this could be a blueprint for an RFA for request for proposals, right? Those are the things. So identify, and then so I don't know if we need the reports, but you have all of these things there. Now this is the money bit. I'm sorry, Troy, could you go back to that one? Because money is important. And I did mention earlier today, like next page, please. Yeah, so role of the subcommittee or role of the Juvenile Justice Committee is decide on funding. And this is or decide on the focus of the area. So whatever, just, and I think it's been fairly, like where this discussion was leading, is that we feel that emphasis on diversion versus probation structure is where we want to go with this. But we still need time to think about it.
I think I think the silence is that there's people still trying to kind of absorb this. Is that
Okay.
fair to say?
And we don't need to make any decisions today, but this is just an introduction. So maybe what I would ask you to do, read this whole thing, think about it, consult with your local partners, and maybe come with some recommendations for our next meeting, will be in June.
I think that sounds probably like a good step for this. I can say that I know that Molly and I will actually be on a trip where we'll be with some colleagues from around the nation between this meeting and our next meeting, and should have a little bit of time to actually talk about this. So I think if all the committee members could kind of look through and get a grasp and report back next time, or just be able to have it as a discussion point again next time, I think we'll be a little more able to make some good discussions or recommendations or next steps.
That sounds fair. And another thing, Tori, I know you're off screen, but can you still, is your microphone working? I was wondering if it would make sense to share this document with OJDA. And I'll be happy to talk about it at your next board meeting or whichever meeting. Just this is the conversations we've been having, and we're still trying to figure out which direction to go and solicit feedback from them.
I guess I'm a little confused on, you were talking about counties kind of volunteering in to participate. But I guess I'm a little unclear what YDO's role is. Is it to provide technical assistance? I mean, it seems like this document is saying, here's what we're kind of working on this already, as opposed to at the county level working on it. And so I'm a little confused about how that interaction, what your plan is with that, and kind of what that looks like at the county level.
So it will look at the council level, whichever way the council wants it to look like. As a designated state agency that has state advisory group, we receive funding. So this is basically the priority for funding areas was identified 2 years ago. And I believe I talked about probation several times when I attended your meetings. So the role of the state advisory group is to decide which priorities will be funded across the state in the same way we did in previous years when we say we had alternatives to detention as a priority. So we dedicate funding to certain areas that might need an improvement. Now, how that improvement will be done, it's up to county in our case. So for instance, or if you think that there's absolutely nothing that needs to be improved in Lynn County, wonderful. But
So-
if you feel that there might be some benefit from making some changes.
So if I'm kind of following you, this group then is going to kind of build the framework of what they think needs to happen, and then say counties if you'd like to participate.
Right.
I mean,
But we set Yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
Yes and no. We're not going to dictate what your county needs done, Tori. Basically, it's like any other program area that the Title II funding was dedicated to, whether it was community programs and services. This is kind of the framework, but how you do that, it depends on the needs of your community. So it's just, and I know probation reform is such a we're not coming in changing anything. Take away the reform piece and just saying we're just focusing on probation. How can we improve or help fund any initiatives that you would like to implement in your community to help improve what you already have existing?
Yeah.
Do you want to add to that? Do you want to, take something away? Do you need funding for growth in this area? Like Anya said, if nothing is needed, then you're in a great place with probation. But another county may. So basically, it's just a program area that we're kind of focusing on to pour into because it is a resource that can be used that maybe hasn't been used as much as it could have. Maybe some funding needs to be added to that area. And we're just really here just to provide that avenue. Also, as a state agency, a state advisory group, we're just setting up the framework for what that looks like from the Title II funding and how can we distribute those funds in that area.
Okay.
I'm going to weigh in a little bit too. Take off my juvenile department hat. This is a grant that counties could potentially apply to participate in or choose not to participate in, Tori. This is literally just, it is, and the SAG, this group, I'm sorry, Jeff, but this group there's a little tiny pot of money. It's not very big. It's $5.55, right? And this group is really tasked with doing some percentages of that across these areas. The counties don't get a weigh in on this part. This is really what the SAG is looking at. I mean, on how they're going to divide up their dollars to then put grants out for counties to respond to. So that's why we were talking about, or not we, but the group was talking, well, I was the one talking about it, so it was me, but like diversion or intervention or prevention, those all have definitions, and it's just a percentage of that could be there. The 3-year plan that was put in, did it have percentages in it at the time, Anya? I can't remember. I remember having the meeting because it was at ODE, but I can't remember if we've actually put percentages in back then.
So we didn't put percentages, but we put numbers. So
Right.
our budget for fiscal year 24, which is the first year of the plan, it has $150,000 in community-based services, which can be also tied to this work.
Yeah.
It has $150,000 for delinquency prevention, which can be also tied to this work. And we have $170,000 for appropriate and something sanctions, which can be also. We did not specifically identify diversion because it's too narrow.
Right. We did it broad.
Yeah, we did it broad. And
Yep.
the same budget will be submitted for fiscal year 25.
Perfect.
So what exact percentage that is, it's about like.
Yeah, but that's what this part is talking about in this particular document is that breakdown. It's not the local breakdown.
Totally. So we would just, yeah. And we don't receive a ton of money from the OJJDP. It's a little over $500,000 every year, but it's still, it's money. And it needs to be invested to the benefit of communities and children.
Yeah, so Anya, kind of the long answer to your question is yes, it would be great for you to come and kind of explain the process
Sure.
at OJDDA so that folks are aware of what that looks like and kind of what the desired outcome would be from that.
Totally.
Thank you for all of that explanation. Thank you, Lawrence.
All right, so Anya, is that some guidance to you? Is that where we're at? Some guidance from here?
I think so. I really appreciate the conversation, and it's always wonderful to have folks joining us. It's to hear perspectives and concerns, and just this is a safe place.
Yeah.
Share all of it. So the next steps will be we will internally look at the type of basically we need to figure out what an RFA will look like. You know, that's the thing. Meanwhile, Jeff, Molly, you will go to think, well, everybody will think about it some more. And I will be happy to explain the dynamics and the mechanics of this to the OJDA at your next meeting, Tori. Get some more feedback from you. And then in June, hopefully we'll have enough information to move forward.
Great. Okay, any further follow-up on that from anybody? Questions, thoughts? If not, next on our agenda is the last item that's on the agenda today is Douglas County Extended Detention application.
Awesome.
So take it away, Anya.
Yes, I guess it's me again. So now we're moving from the federal things to the state things. And I will probably repeat myself for those who heard this 25 times, but if you haven't, so the Youth Development Council and Youth Development Division have responsibility to approve applications for 30-day extended detention programming. And the way we do it, we receive an application and then we have 60 days to approve. So we did not send out the application because but Joe is showing it to you that this is what it looks like. So we just received an application, except they didn't put date of submission, but it's the good thing I have their email, so I will put the date. I will insert the date in there. But that's when the clock starts from the day of submission, and we have 90 days to review the application and move it for approval. Usually, we are able to complete the review within 90 days, because if there are some questions or something needs to be adjusted, it gives us enough time to communicate with the applicant and make some adjustments so we can present this information to the Youth Development Council for vote. My hope is that we will be done with this by the next meeting, which is on June 11th. Now with that, I would be asking for volunteers. So usually it's YDD staff, and we ask council members to join the review group. We don't have a whole lot of council members here left in the room, I don't think. So what I will be doing, I will not be asking you to volunteer today, but I will send out the application to the Juvenile Justice Committee members only, asking for volunteers. So some people are mandatory, like Sam Core doesn't have a way out of it. We have to have education. So we cannot do it. So the process is this: you read the application, what the time commitment is. It's not as long as it looks because they attached a whole lot of policies, like the whole policy book that the facility has. You don't necessarily need to read their policies unless you love reading policies. It also includes inspections from DOC that they're fine. It has information about the county inspections. So there's more in it than there is something that you need to review. And then, yeah, they have a letter. So I've gone through the application. So they have all the components that needed to be submitted. The process is we review those of you who will volunteer and those who are not here today. We don't need a lot of people, but it's nice to have about 5. So, and I don't know, Caitlin, if you would be interested because OYA uses this program. But anyway, I will send an email to the juvenile justice, and I don't know, Jeff, if you would be interested since you've gone through a similar process before. But again, I'm not putting anybody on the spot right now. I'm just making a suggestion. The only person who is mandatory, that's Sam Cole, and he knows it. So it's not because he is not present today. It's just because we cannot, because the education component is huge. It really is. And Jeff will probably agree with me.
So just to clarify, is there a site visit for the 30-day for the extended
Yes.
detention?
Yes. So once we do the paper review and we will communicate, we will probably have a check-in at some point just for the reviewer group, right? And then we will schedule a site visit because we need to see the program in real life, right? And it's in Roseburg. It will be a day trip from Salem. But say if you need to travel a longer distance, and your council member will definitely reimburse your travel and everything. And of course, Lawrence, you're mandatory too.
So yeah, Anya, I mean, I'll start off. I know you're not necessarily looking for volunteers and you'll put a thing out, but I'd be glad to jump in and help on this one. I am gone a lot in May, but we can coordinate that offline. We don't have to talk about that now, but I'd be glad to help with this.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, so it's a 1-day inspection, and we will coordinate with the reviewers, but also with the site, obviously, because they need to be prepared.
I
So
want to drop by Dan's office unannounced, but that's just me.
don't know if I can make it happen.
It's fine. So you'll send out inquiry to the group to see if you can get some more volunteers.
Right.
And those that are on the call today, if you're willing to volunteer, let Anya know. If you are or reach out to somebody. It looks like we do have a lot of staff left, but for anyone that's on, reach out to someone or let someone know, any YDO members that might be willing to do this.
Yeah,
So
thank
council
you.
members, excuse me.
I will follow up with an email.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. Anything else on the on that, Anya?
No, just a reminder that our next meeting will be in June. We've moved to every other month schedule. And we will continue the conversation about the priorities of a 3-year plan, which is related to probation and diversion. We were still working on the name, the title for this work. We'll have an update from all other things, and whatever comes our way until June.
Okay. And then also just showing on the agenda, just a reminder for everyone, there's a council meeting, quarterly meeting on June 18th. So we'll actually have a meeting with full council on Thursday, the 18th, and then the following Wednesday, we'll have a committee meeting.
This is Melissa, the council administrator. Sorry, that date is incorrect. It's June 11th is
June
what
11th.
the next council meeting is.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you, Melissa.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you, Melissa.
I'll just add that we are tentatively in Silverton. We're working with the Sequoia school there.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
That'd be great. And that makes more sense why it was not on my calendar for the 18th, but it is on my calendar for the 11th. So thank you for that clarification. That's everything that we've had on the agenda. Does anybody have any last minute thoughts for the good of the order before we adjourn for the day? I'm looking through, I don't see anybody raising hands or jumping up and down. I just want to say thank you for putting up with my technical difficulties. I do feel way better about the fact that when I got IT in here, it took him a little bit of time to figure out what was going on as well, which means that it wasn't just me, because it usually is just me and it's usually pretty simple. So without seeing any hands, I would say thank you all. We'll adjourn the meeting, and you have 33 minutes on your calendar that is scheduled off. So go take a quick break or a quick nap before your next meeting. Good to see you, Tori.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. We'll see you all later.